This evening we have the privilege to hear from one of the members of our community. You also might recognize him from CNN. I'd like to invite Josh Levs up this evening, who is going to deliver the sermon this evening.
Thanks, Rabbi. Shana Tova. Okay, that's it. I'm done. See. Now, I guess I'm going to say, and thank you for inviting me to do this tonight. I want to start off with a question. Have you ever thought about giving up something that you knew was really important, that you cared about tremendously, because you knew that no matter how hard you tried, you'd never be able to accomplish your goal? I remember in the 2008 presidential election, I was doing all these reality checks all the time. I was taking what the candidates were saying, and I was contrasting it against the truth. And just working insane hours all the time. And one night, I was just so tired. I did not want to go to work the next day. And I said to my wife, what's the point? Why bother? They're going to keep on saying these things anyway. They do. And you know what? Most people are going to vote however they're going to vote anyway. So what's the point? My wife tried to gently help me realize that it kind of sounded like I had a God complex. Because what was I thinking? Seriously, what was I thinking? I was personally going to revolutionize our entire political system. That thought didn't make sense. But see, I know why my goals are so big. It's actually the same reason that I keep kosher. It's because I feel a responsibility to the generations. See, every time I eat, part of my brain is forced to remember these generations of history, centuries, millennia of tradition and history of our people, and what they went through to get to now, when we have this unbelievable freedom that literally so many generations couldn't envision. I can do anything I want. I can be anything I want to be and practice my faith openly. It's amazing what we have. So I have to live the best life I can. I have to do the best job I can with it. I have to do the most I can with it because I have to do it for all of them. I have to be the best father I can be and pass it on. And if it's journalism that my instincts are telling me I have to do, then I have to do the most I can with that. Because I have to do it for all of them, including those who would have been amazing at it and never got to do it. I was thinking about this because it's Yom Kippur, obviously. We pray. And in Hebrew, the word prayer is lehit palel. Palel, the root, is judge. Lehit is what I think is technically called the reflexive infinitive. Lehit palel means to judge oneself. Isn't that cool? Our word for prayer means we judge ourselves, and that's what we do when we pray. So I was thinking about the standards on which I judge myself, and I know that my responsibility, it's not a sense of responsibility, because it's not just in my mind. My factual, real, existing responsibility to the generations that got us here is central to how I judge myself. When I was in Nuremberg doing some reporting, I stood in places Hitler once stood and interviewed Nazis, and I went to this awesome soccer stadium that's just steps away from where Hitler had those big, horrifying rallies that you see in the Riefenstahl films. And I was asked to come speak with this group of teenagers at a high school, and they were great. They were great. And they told me that they feel stigmatized. They said everywhere they go outside of Germany, people hear they're from Nuremberg and want to talk to them about that whole era. And they said, it's not fair. It's not us. We didn't do that. It's a stigma. I told them, I hear you, but let me offer you another way to look at this. You drive on these roads. You have traffic lights. You have schools. You have a functioning government. You have this whole society that's here for you, that's given to you. You can't just take and not also recognize that there's a responsibility that comes with all this great stuff you're getting. The responsibility is that you have to learn the past. and learn from it and use it to live a better life. You can't just take unless you want to be a hypocrite. I can't just take. I can't have that relationship to Judaism. I can't say, well, I like this, I don't like this. I'm going to take that, but not that. I'm kind of Jewish this way, I'm definitely not Jewish that way. Because I have a responsibility to the path that got us here. We have a responsibility to the path that gave us this. There's this shot in Schindler's List that always sticks in my mind. It's this boy, this little boy, must have been like 4 years old, in the sewers, covered up in sewer water up to here and looking around in terror, trying to figure out what to do. And even though I knew there were cameras and lights and makeup, someone was yelling action, someone was yelling cut, it didn't matter. Because that image was forcing me to internalize this reality that there were 4-year-old boys in that exact scenario, among so many others in so many scenarios. And it's not just then. If you look back at our history, the number of martyrs that it took to get us to now is just overwhelming and astounding. It's crazy. And it's not just previous generations. A few years ago, in November 2008, we were covering the Mumbai terror attacks. And those were largely about tensions between India and Pakistan. But the Pakistani terror group made sure to point out how they feel about the Jews. So they went to Chabad, and we know what they did there. So our martyrs aren't just in previous generations. And it's not just martyrs. I mean, our history is filled with so many people who lived these long, wonderful, fulfilling lives and worked really hard against all sorts of odds to keep this alive and pass it on, to get this to us. I have to live in a way that honors that. I have to live in a way that's a testament to that. We owe it to our forebears in America that we have the freedom that we do. Unfortunately, we have a bunch of days throughout the year when we stop to celebrate that, and we should. But we owe it to our forebears in Judaism that we have this. So, here's a question. How do I live as a testament? How do you? How do we? So I was thinking about that, and then I realized we have the answer. It's right here. Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu. These are the things not to do to live a righteous life. It's in here. It's in here. And it's in the Torah Sheba'al Peh, the laws and traditions that we're never supposed to write down, that we pass on through our oral tradition. How to live a righteous life. With humility. Hineni, right? Here I am, standing before you. Humble. And there's so much wisdom in this. Just as keeping kosher makes my life bigger and better and deeper, and gives me this drive to pursue the impossible, so can so many of our traditions lead us to live bigger, better, deeper, better to our fellow man, with greater impact. A friend of mine said Judaism is like this very, very old, wise person with all this collective wisdom from thousands of years about how to live, from having lived and worked, suffered, sacrificed, struggled, succeeded, and accomplished, celebrated, from having loved. There's all this wisdom on how to live. And we get to live it out. Because we're in a dream. What we have, some previous generations couldn't even imagine. This freedom. And if you think about it, look, not everything's perfect. Never going to be perfect. Continue to face our problems and our struggles, but we are in a dream right now. Compared to so much of our history, what we have, this is a dream. And that rabbi and his wife at Chabad, the 4-year-old boy, millions, generations. when you stop and internalize what they had to go through, too many of our people didn't live to testify. We live to testify. People have seen a lot of darkness. But we're in the light. This wisdom, this is their light. Shines for us. And there's this show on Bravo where this host sits down with movie stars and tells them that they're perfect in every possible way. It's actually a great show. At the end, he always asks them this question. You get to heaven, what would you want God to say to you? I know my answer, but it's too much to ask. It's the ultimate wish. What I would want God to say, you lived well. That's it. You done good. Just you lived well. But people tell that joke about you ask God to make you win the lottery and then you don't buy a lottery ticket. I can't have that wish and not do this. This is on me. This is on us. To internalize this and mean it and bring it into everyday life, it's so easy to go through the motions and go through the rituals and not recognize the brilliant wisdom that is in here to live a life of righteousness with humility. That's on us. And in the end, that's how I judge myself. It's not by whether I could have this impossibly huge impact through my work, although I will try for that. Stuff matters. It's tikkun olam. Don't believe politicians' lies. It's definitely not by how many people saw me on TV any given day or cared about my last tweet. Did I try to live a life of righteousness? Did I try? Did I live in a way that honors this light, the path? Was I a hypocrite? Was I flippant? Did I just take? Or did I try to live a righteous life? And I'll end with this. Just as today is about us facing God's judgment, right? But in it being prayer, lehit palel, also about us judging ourselves. So is today also about us sealing ourselves. Even as we ask God to seal us in the book of life. I have to seal my commitment today, right now, that I will try to live a life of righteousness. That I will mean this. We have to. And that's my hope for all of us. That all of us, not just in this room, but all over the world, all of those of us who celebrate this holiday, that we will seal our commitment to living a life of righteousness, to meaning this, righteousness with humility, as we ask God to seal us in the book of life. Shana tova, mitzuka, tikatevu, techatema, gemar chatima tova. Thank you.